Hey, Todd Halleck here today talking to you about special needs planning for families who have children that have special needs. And by that I mean a child or a beneficiary who, if they inherited assets from you, could potentially have government assistance eliminated or reduced because of that inheritance. These are going to be beneficiaries who receive what we refer to as needs-based government assistance from either the state or federal government. It could be a program like Medicaid or SSI. Other benefits programs like SSDI or Medicare, for example, are not needs-based, and so inheritance won't jeopardize those assets or those programs. But if you're receiving Medicaid, SSI, or similar needs-based assistance, those benefits could be jeopardized if a person received a decent or significant inheritance. And so oftentimes people will plan by either A, disinheriting that special needs child, leaving them impoverished so that they don't get an asset at all or don't get assets at all, or two, they will leave it to another child and ask that child to take care of the assets for them. Well, clearly the problem with impoverishing a child is those benefits may not be sufficient on their own to provide for the needs of that child. While you're still alive, you're probably supplementing those programs with your own resources to help provide for that child's needs. But if you're gone and they've been disinherited, where does that difference get made up? If you just decide to leave it to a child and another child and say, you know, you take care of your brother or sister, well, what if that child doesn't end up being able to do that for a variety of reasons? What if they pass away? What if they end up getting divorced and their spouse takes a share of those assets? I mean, when you leave those assets to that other child, they're his or her assets. So they may or may not be there for the special needs child. So that's a problem. And so often when we're planning for families with children who have special needs, we will set up what we call a special needs trust. Now, there's a few different kinds of special needs trusts out there. What we're normally setting up for people is going to be what we call a third-party special needs trust. This is a trust where you take your assets and you put it into a separate trust for the benefit of that disabled child upon your death, and they're never considered the assets of that child. That's going to be different from what we refer to as a first-party special needs trust or a pooled trust, where we're using assets of the special needs child. Say they were injured in an automobile accident, received a settlement. We might start a first-party special needs trust, or a D4A trust it's sometimes called, to handle those assets while they're alive to be used for their supplemental needs. But then upon the death of that child, the assets of that trust will go back to the state or the governmental entity that's providing benefits to the extent that they're required to be repaid. With a third-party special needs trust, those assets upon the death of the child were never part of that child's estate, and so they can go back to your other children or grandchildren or whoever you designate to take care of those assets. So we're making sure that the child doesn't lose his or her benefits. B, we're making sure that they have assets to make up the difference, right? For things that aren't covered by those programs. Maybe it's providing housing, maybe it's providing some transportation, maybe it's providing tickets to the ball game. I've got some folks that love to go to ball games, and we can use some of that money to send them to a ball game from time to time. So whatever those things are that aren't covered by those benefits, the proceeds of that special needs trust can be used to enhance the life of that child. And then upon their passing, instead of it going back to the state, it goes to whoever you've designated in that trust. So it can be a great way to plan for that child. Those special needs trusts can either come into existence upon your death, or they can be in existence presently and other people can leave assets to them. Insurance policies can list this special needs trust as the death beneficiary, and this trust can really go into some detail about what's going to be in the best interest of this child? What things would he or she really benefit from, and what things should that trustee know? Things that you may only know at this point in time. They can just be a real benefit for that family. And if whoever you put in charge of that special needs trust can't do it anymore for any number of reasons, then you've got somebody else who can step in and take over for them. If the person who's managing those assets has problems in their own life, those problems won't bleed over into the assets that are there and set aside for the benefit of that special needs child. So a special needs trust can be a great estate planning tool for families with special needs children. There's a wide array of things we won't go into today, ABLE accounts and even a little more depth on first party special needs trust. But as a family with a special needs child, really think about putting some planning in place. Don't leave it to chance. And make sure at the end of the day that all your beneficiaries are coordinated with that planning, that other people in your family who may be leaving you an inheritance that may ultimately go to this special needs child are thinking about him or her as well, so that we just don't end up with a situation where we've done harm to that child's ability to receive the assistance that they're entitled to. So anyways, special needs trust, a great tool. Planning for special needs children, so important. You folks deserve extra commendations out there for the hard work you put in to take care of that child, often for their entire lives. Don't neglect what happens to them after you're gone.